Mr. Rufty, how you doing?
Hey, good. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
miracle. An actual living, breathing person and not a robot.
As far as I know.
It is an absolute honor to talk to you. Uh, I don't know if you noticed, but I've been kind of trying to push this my own agenda here tonight. We had author Wolverine on earlier, and we pitched it to him, and he's cool. He's cool with it. I don't even know if this would ever work out, but look, if you see on your screen there, I would really love to see this as its own book. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Because see, they both have their pros and cons, and they both have like peripheral influential characters that would be probably teaming up to take on these two. It'd be like a triangle death match, you know what I mean? You'd have like Joel in the asylum, fresh out of the asylum, teaming up with Ambrose, the guy who always kills Brain Chew. And then Brain Chew and Pillowface would be battling it out. I'm telling you, man, that's a collaboration that would pay off, I think. I mean, I'm obsessed with this idea.
So they have to start off as kind of working together at first, and then by the end, they're probably going against each other.
Yeah. So how are you doing this? How's your weekend been so far?
Oh, it's been great. In the process of moving, so pretty exhausted. So if I sound very incoherent, that's probably, I'm going to say that's why.
Well, that's okay. We've been incoherent for the last 3 hours. So. But I've got to say, man, Hell Departed, Pillowface versus the Lurkers, fucking badass. I love this character. And every time, even though he's like a scumbag, there's always that glimmer of hope, that faint glimmer of hope that he's going to, do the right thing, that he's going to turn on these two military buddies of his, Buddy and Carp. Somehow Buddy always manages to work that spell over Pillowface and tell him, you're just a killer. You can never be anything but. And every time I fall for it and think that Pillowface is developing a conscience, and I'm always disappointed. And it's like, I know that that's part of that's the point of the Pillowface stories. But I mean, what a well-rounded character, like some real pathos there,
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, it's weird because when I was first starting to like really seriously write, I never thought I would write so much about the bad guys. But I don't know, it's a little more interesting, I think. And I think with Pillowface, he's got that loyalty to Buddy. It was, and well, I don't want to give too much away, but in the Pillowface book, Buddy was there when he basically becomes Pillowface, and there's like that just connection between the two. And Buddy sometimes has to remind Pillowface that being blatant and being a monster is better than being human. So when Pillowface starts to feel certain things again, like, Joel kind of reminding that it's not so bad to, have a little bit of fun. And then Bree in Hell Departed kind of reminds him, and also Haley in Pillowface reminds him that, there are beautiful women out there and he still has an eye for them other than just killing. He has like this other layer to him that, he's kept buried down for so long, and bit by bit it starts to come out. But Buddy, is there like the abusive master to call him back, like the dog owner, the keeping him on his leash or on his chain or whatever, only letting him loose when he wants him to do something for him.
Yeah. There's always this hope that he's going to turn on Buddy once and for all, and show some honest, good qualities. But I don't know if I guess he's doomed to forever, like, be a recidivist to his killing ways. But I don't think you've ever come out and straight revealed what Pillowface's origins were, did you? Unless it was in the first novel, but I don't remember anything other than hints. Am I right?
Well, in in the Pillowface book, it kind of started with them, in Iraq. They got captured, and Pillowface originally, I've never said what his name was, because when, which I do know his name, I actually have it. It's written down in my notes and everything. One day I might put that in something. But he, he was captured, and he was known and kind of almost teased soldiers because he almost looked like a male model in the face. He had this like very pleasant baby face Brad Pitt type look to him, and Iranian soldiers picked up on that, and they forced Buddy to film them cutting his face off. And then later, when they come back home, they're getting off the bus, and Pillowface is all bandaged up, and that little girl starts laughing at him. And she says, "Look, he's got a pillow for a face. His name's Pillowface." And then later, Pillowface goes after that little girl, and then he demands that Carp and Buddy call him Pillowface from now on, because that moment when he got off the bus and that girl called him Pillowface, he realized to him, that was all he was ever going to be, was a monster that people either laughed at or was afraid of, and he kind of liked them being afraid of him more than them laughing at him.
Mm-hmm. But I think you're onto something with this like shared universe crossover thing. I would like to see Pillowface versus many more monsters. I think that the thing is, I don't understand where him and Buddy and Carp get their quote unquote assignments. Who gives them these assignments if they're out of the service, the armed service? Where are they taking
but
from?
In Buddy's eyes, his assignments, I guess the assignments come from him. In his eyes, into a killer, and then when he got out of the military, he desperately needed help, but he did not seek help, and so in his eyes, the kill switch was flipped, but he doesn't want to flip it back off. So he kind of has created his own war that doesn't really exist, in real life, but he thinks it does, and he's got his two loyal followers. Well, one loyal follower with Pillowface. I kind of like having Carp be sort of like Starscream the Megatron. It's kind of like Carp does what he's told to do, but Carp kind of has his own ideas of how it should be done.
Yeah.
Dynamic between those two, but yeah, Buddy he doesn't even really have a mission other than, I guess, hurt and destroy. And Buddy gets his own hands dirty. He always he watches it from behind the camera, just like he did in the war. He was he documented everything, in video and all that, and that's what he does now. But him being a filmmaker by heart, he prefers film, so he always shoots it on his 8mm camera.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, there's clearly something. It's got to be something supernatural that drives Pillowface now, because of the fact that there are maggots like eating on his infected wounds, and I mean clearly there is something animating him, even though he should be dead now, right? And I don't think you've revealed what that is, but I think Buddy knows what it is. Is that accurate?
I don't know. I haven't really delved into that too much. I was kind of, in my eyes, I grew up, on a farm, and my grandparents had a farm. They had horses, and I just remember one of the horses kind of getting a wound on her leg, and they had bandaged it up, and it got infected. When they took the bandage off, there was maggots in it, and that's something that stayed with me ever since I was a kid, seeing that. And so I was like, well, Pillowface not having actual medical treatment and everything, and just kind of in the shower at Joel's house, rinsing it out and then wrapping it up. I figured, eventually some stuff would probably start eating away at it.
Well, I mean, this guy.
So that's kind of where that came from.
Well, surely he would already be dead, though, if there wasn't something making him superhuman, though, right? I mean, he just keeps going.
I don't know. I guess we'll see. Because I'm definitely not done with him. So I've
Yeah,
already got the idea for another one called Pillowface Rules. Kind of,
he
it's
certainly
sort of
does.
based off that Stephen King feature, the Stephen King Rules, and it takes place, a few years later, and Joel's older, and Joel's going to
Yeah,
be in it. And
he's going
the
to get
way I
out of that
look at it in my
asylum.
head is it's almost, yeah, he's going to actually kind of, you know, almost like a Patrick Bateman type character. He's got all this money now from his parents, who passed away. He's old enough to receive his inheritance, and so he's on the surface. Joel is, just this guy, going from day to day. Underneath, he's like obsessed with trying to still figure out where Pillowface is. But one day he receives a letter with a map. He knows it's Pillowface. I'm not going to say why Pillowface reaches out to him again, but Joel goes to find Pillowface, and he does, and Pillowface needs help getting from one location to another, so Joel is going to drive him there, and then it sort of turns into like a horror version of the movie Tommy Boy with Chris Farley and David Spade.
So wait, sounds like you've already written some of this, right? Sounds like you've already written some of this.
I've written my notes, yeah. I have 3 chapters of it written, but I kind of took a break from it to work on other stuff. But the way I write stuff, I kind of sit down and kind of do like, I guess I call them notes, but I really don't know what it is. It's almost like a conversation with odds and everything. And I try not to go too detailed. I kind of like to write without having to follow them, but I've done all that with that book, but
I've got to say,
written the entire thing yet. But
I've got to say, I think that you're onto something with as far as crossovers. I think that he should cross over with many other things. I think that maybe he should be the equalizer that's like knocking out all these other monsters in your shared universe.
Yeah.
I don't think stop with the lurkers. I mean, are there others you could see him going up against? Oh man, did we lose him? Fuck, man. Everybody is having trouble tonight. Maybe Jeff did some chaos magic on us. Ooh.
I told you the Covenids are gnawing at all the intertube cables.
The what?
The Covenids. That's when the plague first began. I was making jokes about it being an invasion by invisible aliens called Covenids, but after a while, that joke stopped being funny because it just dragged on and on. It's like the whole thing is a joke that went on too long. But get this, I just noticed. I don't know if you can see this, but the smoke detectors in my hotel room are completely taped over with plastic.
Meaning what? They won't work?
Someone didn't want the cameras in them to see you.
No, the LA is dumping a lot of its homeless population into Palm Springs, and they're putting them into hotel rooms here. And I've noticed that a lot of them insist on smoking, even though the hotels don't allow it.
Yeah.
So I think they put somebody in here and they wanted to smoke, so they taped smoke detectors, and then the thing that didn't look up.
Yeah. So, Chris, as I was saying, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
And he's gone. Yeah. Oh, there he is.
Yeah. So, Chris, as I was saying, I think that you should look into Pillowface crossing over with more, characters through your books. I don't know, Pillowface versus the Bigfoot from Bigfoot Beach, or maybe not Pillowface versus Jagger, but you get the idea.
Yeah, that would be a pretty cool fight, actually, with the Bigfoot from Bigfoot Beach.
Think about it, huh? I don't know how big.
Yeah,
I don't know how Bigfoot
That-
Beach
that-
ends, but if he's still alive, yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool.
Geez, man, Pillowface versus Edward Lee's Creakers, or Pillowface versus Brian Keene's Clickers, Pillowface versus the Red Mohawk, or the Hematophages from Kozanuski's space novel, or Pillowface versus Brain Chew. I'm telling you, the crossover potential is through the roof, baby. I love this character entirely too much.
Yeah, talk to Keen about the versus Clickers, because I actually wrote a story for that Clickers anthology, and that would be cool to work with Brian for that.
Yeah, I'm sure Brian Keene will, he'll listen to me for sure. But
Wait, Pillowface versus Leslie Vernon.
oh, the horror movie,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
I
Maybe.
think it could work.
No, but I'm talking about things that he could actually pull off in the writing world, with some, I don't know, man. I just see this guy cleaning up a lot of his fellow monsters. I think you've started something here that needs to keep going. I understand you got
Pillowface versus the Big Head. That would be pretty cool. The Big Head by Edward Lee.
You could do that. You could totally make that happen. I believe that Edward Lee would do it.
Yeah, I know him pretty well, and I know he's read Pillowface too. So,
Chris, man, you gotta make this happen, brother.
yeah, I might pitch that to him. Actually, I was kind of joking when I said it, but now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, that would be really fun.
You started something here, and I love just like I said, I love it when different characters of different backgrounds like go up against each other with all they've got. Like Pillowface versus the Lurker. I had not actually read any Lurker novels before this, but it was interesting. So for everybody here who I think I'm the only one here who's read any of these books we're talking about, tell the people what the Lurkers are and what their whole background is. It's fairly interesting too.
The Lurkers are like these little tiny creatures, and sometimes people kind of think they're, like the size of elves or dwarfs, but they're smaller. They're like just tiny little, almost like stick people. I mean, they're so skinny and scrawny, but they have like these gremlins type faces and all that. And they're like this race that, in the books they exist in Wisconsin. They're all actually based off of a Wisconsin legend that a friend of mine told me about, and I kind of took it and did my own thing with it. But so they live in the cornfields and the woods and like the deep center of Wisconsin and all the farming, tiny little farming towns and everything. And one of the farmers there had this daughter who, kind of fell in love with one, and there was some, love making, and then they had a child and they named him Warder, and he became like, the progenitor son of the Lurkers, which they're also known as the Haunchies, is what they're actually called. And so they kind of existed in their own little area, and some stuff happened like throughout the years, and the daughter, that she was fully human girl, she is killed. So these Haunchies kind of go against the towns and start slowly wiping them out. And kind of like Phantasm style, they're just going through, and it's like becoming ghost towns and all that. And in Hell Departed, the trio of killers from Pillowface are fleeing to Buddy's cabin, which is actually in Whisper Lake, which is the lake that surrounds the towns from the Lurkers. And they kind of just cross paths like after the events of the first Lurkers book, which almost wiped out all the Haunchies. And so that Hell Departed is kind of sandwiched between the Lurkers and then the Lurking Season. So you could almost read that as a trilogy if you wanted to, because the Lurking Season, picks up years later, and then has its own story that goes in another direction. I actually have another idea for another Lurkers book, and I hope to one day get to write it. But I really, really like that idea, but it would take place, quite a few years after the events of the other two or other three stories, I guess.
Yeah. Well, what are some other monster? Well, I mean, no. Wait, before we get out of the pillow face area of your work, tell everybody what the old bitch is. This is like the greatest weapon ever conceived in horror fiction.
The old bitch is this. The one of the killers. Well, I guess Pillowface and Carp kind of have this like. Competition other,
okay.
And always looked at it in one of those like the paddles you would see hanging on
With the holes in them to make the wind go like whoosh through them,
and the holes drilled through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like slipped down into like a metal casing. Carp has taken it and slipped it down in a metal casing and then wrapped the paddle in with barbed wire. And so yeah, that was actually going to be in the Pillowface book. I ended up not using it in that, and I was like, well, I got to put it in this. And then there's the homemade flamethrower that Pillowface uses in that, which I actually really loved writing about that. I had to do research on how flamethrowers work and how they're constructed. I was scared to death open the house and what I was doing.
Yeah, man. There were these times in Pillowface, the original book, where it's like I couldn't believe what some of these characters were doing. Like when what's Joel's sister's name again? What was her name? The sister of Joel. Chris? Hey, Chris, you hear me?
Oh, we back?
Yeah. I was asking, what is the
I hear
name
you.
of Chris's sister? What was her name?
Oh, and Pillowface?
Yeah.
Haley?
Yeah, so Haley's boss.
Was it?
He at one point he sneaks
Yeah.
he sneaks into their home to try to like and Pillowface is already in their home sleeping on her bed because Joel brought him in and hit him like he was a stray dog. And here you've got the boss sneaking into the home at the same time. It's insane, man. All these people with different agendas, just piling on to each other. I'd love that shit.
Yeah, that I don't really even know where that idea came from. I remember I think he was just going to be like a small part when I first sat down and started writing it, but I don't want to say I liked him, but I definitely thought that he was a little bit more, I guess, sleazy than what I presented him in that first chapter. You know how they kind of tease him, they're making fun of him behind his back and everything. And but then it turns out that he is a very sick individual himself, and his paths cross. I guess that comes from I read a lot of crime fiction too, like where it always seems like every character in there kind of has a little bit of I guess a little bit of a dark side in them, and they're always trying to hide it from the outside world. So a lot of characters that I write about in a lot of these books, even the main characters, some have some type of darkness that they're always battling, and then the bigger darkness comes along, and they have to battle that as well. And I think Jonesy was I don't know, he was just such a snake. And I don't want to say I had a good time writing his scenes, but he was definitely a very interesting character.
Yeah. So I understand that Pillowface was originally a screenplay. You were going to make it. You were trying to get it made as a movie, right?
Yeah, well, sort of. With some guys in Wisconsin, I live in North Carolina, and I have like I used to do a lot of like independent, horror movies. I wrote, some scripts for some filmmakers and got to make some of my own like low budget things. And I met some people from Wisconsin through a mutual friend, and it was a special effects studio, and they did like their own productions and everything. And I had this script called Psycho Holocaust, and we got together and we actually made it. We made that movie. It's got Trent Haga in it, and it's got Buddy, Cart, and Pillowface in it. And it doesn't really have anything to do with Pillowface. Originally, the Pillowface book was going to kind of be like a prequel to that, but I don't know. It just went in a completely different direction. So now it's just kind of like the Psycho Holocaust movie. It's just like a fun little side to, where another area or another universe that Pillowface existed in. But he's kind of not the same Pillowface that's in the book too. So
Okay. Ben, don't go to sleep, man.
I'm not sleeping.
Okay, I thought I heard you snoring.
Man, am I putting people to sleep?
No,
No.
it happened before, and I'm nervous. Anyway, no,
I don't know
believe
if
me.
you know this, but I used to host a radio show myself. It was like it's called Diabolical Radio, and I hosted it for years. And I had a co-host, and he fell asleep. He was actually drinking through the show, and about the hour and a half mark, he passed out, and you could hear him snoring while the guest was talking. I mean, he talked about.
That's what happened with Ben, yeah. But I mean, who did you host it with? Anybody I know?
Well, it was a few different people, mostly friends of mine. But Jeff Strand actually came on as a co-host a few times, and so did Jack Ketchum. And this was before I was signed. And my whole idea of even doing the show was, I'm a horror fanboy. And I was like, just to be able to talk to these people and talk to these authors, I was like, man, I could get them to come on the show and I could ask them questions about how they made it, how they do it. And, it was like I guess I had, my own greedy reasons for doing it, but I ended up enjoying the show so much. We ended up doing it for about 6 years. And I became friends with a lot of people doing that show, and it helped out so much. Jack Ketchum ended up being such a great friend. I never got to meet him in person, though, but we were internet and telephone buddies. I think he came on the show the most out of everybody. He co-hosted it a few times. I did a Richard Lehman show where it was like a tribute to Richard Lehman, and he co-hosted that one with me.
Oh, cool.
Brian Keene came on there. Lansdale came on there.
Can you still hear these? Are they out there in internet land, or?
I'm guessing so. It's called Diabolical Radio, and it was on Blog Talk Radio. I mean, it's years worth of material. But if they're not, I still have, my library of it all on a hard drive. So
yeah,
if there's ever any shows that you can't listen to online that you want to, let me know, and I could probably find it on my hard drive.
Fantastic. We had Jeff Strand on a while back, and he's another one that I compare to you a lot. You guys are in that same kind of region of horror fiction for some reason. And you're both very prolific, I would say. Hey, what if, what are their names? The guys in Wolf Hunt. What are the names?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, Lou and, what is the other one's name? I can't remember.
It's not Gus, is it?
Is that it? I can't remember. I cannot remember.
Well, I have a good reason for asking. Let's see. Lou and George.
George, that's it.
What if those guys got wind of, crossed paths with Pillowface and Carp and Buddy?
Man, that would be awesome. They could, think, that's a werewolf doing all these vicious killings.
This is a really weird interview because I'm like playing like fanfic guy, a professional writer, saying, "What if you put these guys up against each other and these guys?" But I mean, it's like that's the kind of fervor that this book, put me in. It's like it made me.
Well, I love it. I'm glad it did.
It made me excited to see more crossovers. I don't know. I'd like to think you started something with this book. I know you've got to eventually get back to the main plot of Joel and Pillowface, facing off again, whether it's friendly or, enemy, as friends or enemies. But I feel like, there should definitely be more crossovers, and Pillowface should even clean up, some more monsters. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely on board with, stretching that out and seeing where he could go and who he could possibly go up against. Because there's a lot of other writers out there who's created their own universes with some, pretty powerful people like the Big Head and Lou and George, and that would be fun. I think. I mean, I'm all for it.
And I mean, really, crossovers are not just. They're not just something that, happens once in a blue moon anymore. Freddy versus Jason, some people are, critical of it. I think it worked personally.
I think it worked.
I think it could have been better.
It could have been better, but it
could have been way better. But
it could have been worse too, It could have been worse. But the thing is that, how people in your target audience are big video gamers. I mean, that's pretty much a given, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's a lot of fighting games that have crossover characters now, like Tekken has Akuma from Street Fighter and Negan from The Walking Dead. Mortal Kombat has Freddy Krueger, Leatherface, some DC Comics characters like Batman and Joker. I mean, crossovers are a big thing right now. They could be bigger in literature right now, like they are in video games and movies, too.
Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, I agree with that quite a bit, and it'll be a good way to get two different writers to collaborate.
Yeah, and before we wrap up, I'll bring up the whole thing: Brain Chew versus Pillowface again. That's the title of this episode, and because we talked to Wolverine with the same idea, and he didn't exactly say no. Now, it might be hard because he's in Nigeria and you're in, where'd you say, Wyoming?
Or North Carolina.
North Carolina. So, I mean, the distance, and you may, the way you guys communicate, I don't know how you'd work all that out, but Wolverine didn't exactly say no when I brought it up. And I know I'm being very presumptuous by suggesting it, with characters that aren't mine. But I'm speaking strictly as a fan here, a very hardcore, reader, So anyway, not to spend this whole hour on Pillowface, because you've definitely got so many other books. It seems like you're awfully well known for Jagger as well, the dog, right?
Yeah, I don't know if it's what's funny. Jagger is one of those that I'm known for, and I'm either loved for it or hated for it. So there's not a middle. There's not a middle. Because
the dog dies? Is that what it is?
Well, I guess because it begins the way it begins. It begins, after. And I was very careful too, because I don't like violence on animals, and I thought I was very careful with the way I described, the after a dog fight. It was the dog fight already happened. The book begins, and I mean it already happened. I didn't linger in it, and then there's another part where they're kind of, they've taken Jagger and they want him to be in the dog fights. So they're kind of giving him some drugs that are supposed to make him even stronger. And he's a fuzzy mastiff that already weighs close to 200 pounds. So he's a huge dog. And so they're trying to make him basically like the Incredible Hulk of dogs. And people didn't like that either. Some people, read it and were just, I mean, it was probably the best-selling book I had up to that point. It outsold A Dark Autumn and the Lurkers books, which those were, I thought I was going to be known for the haunchies for, forever. And then Jagger came along and sold really, really well, but then it also kind of got a lot of flack for kind of dealing with, dog fights and stuff.
Yeah. Here is another one that I consider 5 stars. Angel Board.
Oh,
Oh
thank you. I appreciate
man,
that.
I thought that this was like one of those I thought this was from like that '80s Zebra paperback.
Man, that's what I was going for. I appreciate that.
But you were not from that uh, you were not from that clique though, right?
No, no. I knew a friend of mine owned a used bookstore, and actually, she is the basis of the guy character in Pillowface who owns the used bookstore. So, she had like this huge horror selection, and she would always say, "No one ever buys these horror paperbacks." And I was like, "Are you serious?" So I go over there and I just start looking, and I see Gary Brandner, the guy who wrote the Howling series. It was like all these Brandner books. And so I start buying all these things. This was years ago. This was like 2008. And so I start buying all these like used paperbacks, and I became hooked on those things. And Zebra was always my favorite. And I always was like, man, I was like, I think I was born in the wrong time period, because I think I should have been writing these books, back then, and then something in my head was like, well, why don't you just write them now? And so that was where Angel Board came from.
Now,
That was the whole kind of idea of doing something that could have come out and seen on like the, the spin rack in a grocery store type horror book. And
I definitely thought that it had been reprinted from an '80s release. But what were you going to say, Zach? My co-host Zach had something to say about Zebra.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, like, out of all those publishers, they were the best, not by quality, but just by sheer novelty value.
oh man, I agree 100%. They seem to get, not every book was going to be a winner, but man, they put those covers on it, and they sold. I mean, it was they knew what they were doing.
Now, Ben or Ann, either of you guys have questions for him before I launch into this?
No, sorry, I'm not familiar with your work, but I'll definitely check some out.
And you got anything to ask?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page. I like the concept of Pillow Hat. I'll have to check it out, but my stomach kind of hurts too bad to talk right now.
I'm sorry.
All right. I shouldn't have eaten that unrefrigerated egg bite.
How old was it?
I probably shouldn't say, because they'll lock me up for being stupid.
9 days.
What is an egg bite? I don't know what that is.
It's something you get at a 7-Eleven that kind of looks like breakfast.
Oh, okay.
Is it out of a vending machine?
It's a thing that looks like an egg, but it's not an egg.
I think it's made of eggs, but it winds up looking like a yellow hockey puck. But
Did you get it out of a vending machine? Like that?
no, I did get it out of a 7-Eleven. I just didn't realize that this hotel room was not going to have a refrigerator.
Oh,
I'm sure I've given myself salmonella. In TLDR.
I don't know what to say to that. Drink Pepto-Bismol for one
Just
thing.
because you're a dumbass. That'll pretty much sum it up.
Get you some Pepto-Bismol
or ginger ale. Ginger ale.
Yeah, or Sprite, something like that will settle your stomach. Let's see. I always take omeprazole, that over-the-counter purple medicine, when I get stomach problems. You might see if they got some down at the corner store or whatever.
All right.
Omeprazole.
Omeprazole. All right. I got some ginger chews. They taste good anyway, even if they aren't working.
Anyway, so let's see. What were we talking about? We were talking about the Angel Board, right? Yeah. This was pretty insane how quickly the main character's life just got consumed with being around, talking with, and in some cases even fucking this angel, who really wasn't so angelic after all, and how his sister could see him slipping away like so fast. And I loved what happened to the boss, the nagging, grumpy boss in this. that was so fucking hateful to him.
Yeah, that
How
that
he
was
got
based on a true story, sort of.
Well, now wait a minute. What do you mean true story? Did
That-
somebody actually die that way?
No, I almost did.
Oh, you did?
I used to work for. I was a manager for Office Depot. You know how like the character in that book is a manager for Office Warehouse.
Yeah.
I was very creative there. And I was building a bale of cardboard, and they had tried to get the good wires that holds the bales together. It's like these metal wires that you're supposed to kind of loop together, and that confines the cardboard into a cube. And so it fell out of the baler, it landed, and then the thing just exploded. And those wires flew at me. I mean, they just came out like a million whips, and ripped my shirt right up the front. I mean, took off like 6 buttons. It was like, choo, and one of them, I saw it. It was so close to my eye that I saw it. And I actually thought for a minute that it took my eye out, and but it didn't. And so I was like, oh man, how horrible would it be if someone died this way?
Oh,
And that was sort of where that came from.
yeah. I mean, the way he was consumed with her and showed zero remorse for his boss dying, like even he wasn't even shocked by it, really, was he?
No,
That's how far
no.
gone he already was. He was already so far gone with Angel taking control. Yeah, wow. I mean, this was just fascinating. It says here that you directed some movies. Now, you mentioned Psycho Holocaust earlier, and also Rags and Wicked Wood.
Yep.
Now, what
Another one called Cutting Room, and one that's never been released called The Deadening.
Now, on what level are these movies as far as distribution and quality? Like, what are we talking? Are we talking about like Tommy Wiseau The Room type level of like cult status, or are we talking about like late night Cinemax, Trauma, and Full Moon type?
Trauma and Full Moon type stuff, yeah.
That's not bad.
I'm a huge fan of Trauma and Full Moon. Actually, Lloyd Kaufman's in one of my movies, and I know Charles Band pretty well.
Dude, you do?
Yeah.
Can you put me in contact with him to see about bringing him on the show? I would love to talk to him about the Puppet Master movies.
Oh yeah, he does the interviews and everything, but I don't know how long you'd be able to get him. That's the one thing. But
if I could have Charles Band for 20 minutes, I'd be happy. If you could get in contact with him, maybe after the show or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be so awesome. I would appreciate that. Anyway, go ahead. Your movies.
Yeah, they're like I guess more the older stuff, like Cutting Room, was definitely like a love letter to Trauma and Herschel Gordon Lewis, and shot it for very low budget, but ended up having a really good cast in that. So the acting was way better than it should have been, if that makes any sense, because the movie was like, goofy and very gory and all that. We tried to make the gore look like it did in the Herschel Gordon Lewis movies. And then Psycho Holocaust is kind of, we're trying to do like, a type of movie that was like The Last House on Dead End Street or something like that, low budget, but, a good pace, a lot of violence. It was my love letter to like Italian cinema as well. That's where the title Psycho Holocaust came from, is like Cannibal Holocaust. And Rags is like a love letter to Frank Henenlotter, because I love Frank Henenlotter, who does like the Basket Case movies and Frankenhooker and all that stuff. Rags, you can
brain damage. Brain damage.
Oh, Brain Damage is amazing.
There's a sequel that was begging to be made of that. To see what really happened to the main character at the end, like, did he go on living like that with his head like glowing, or
Yeah.
is that his death? Were there other ailments? I mean, so many unanswered questions.
Yeah, I agree. Frank
Anyway,
Henenlotter is just underrated.
Did you see Bad Biology?
Oh yeah. I actually own own 2 copies of that. I own the American release version, then I have a region free player, and I got the one that was released overseas too, because I think that one has like better extras on it and stuff. That's how much of a nerd I am.
The girl had 7 clits, and
Yeah.
the guy had a monster dick that like broke away from him.
I mean,
Hey,
where does
hang
he
on.
come up with this stuff? You know?
Hang on one second, guys. Keep him occupied while I step away for 1 minute. All right.
Hello.
Wait, is that someone new, or was that you just saying hello?
No, that was me. I was just.
So, what are some of your favorite zebra books from back in the day? Do you remember any,
Oh man.
or any,
Well-
any that just stick out for some reason?
What's funny is one that I always talk about. It's one that a lot of people don't really seem to mention. It's called Junkyard. Have you ever heard of that one?
Yeah, I've got that one, but I haven't read it.
Oh man, you need to read it. It's that should have been a movie, like a late
cover's beautiful.
late 80s monster movie, because mutated. I don't want, because you don't find out what kind of creature it is until the end, but it's definitely something that's mutated, because it lets you know that pretty early in the book. I just, as I was reading that, I was like, man, I could have seen this, back in the late 80s, screaming Mad George effects, and like freaking, oh man, it should have been a movie. That one always comes to mind.
Yeah, do you remember? Have you read the what was it? No, it's the one I sent you, Ben. Do you remember the name of it? I've read so many, and they're running together.
Yeah, they
Forever
do that.
Children.
Yeah, The Forever Children by Eric Flanders.
Oh no, I haven't read that. I have it on there on one of my shelves, but I have not read it.
Man, read it. I mean, you won't like. No one believes me, but it's like a diamond in the rough as far as like. I mean, it could actually stand up as just a good novel. I mean, I really, really love it.
Did you ever read Joyride?
Joyride.
It was the zebra Joyride, not Jack Ketchum's Joyride. It's basically like an 80s slasher, but it's in a book form. It takes
What?
place in a graveyard.
Who wrote it? What was the? Can you bring it up, Jeremy? What's the cover?
Joyride is one word or two.
Is who wrote it, but that's the only book that came out under his name, and it makes me think that it's probably a pseudonym for someone else.
You said it's not Jack Ketchum, right?
Yeah, not Jack Ketchum. Oh, what is his name?
I'll find out.
I love that book. It does the thing that I'm
Stephen
not
Fry?
too big of a fan
Stephen?
of. What was it?
Well, hang on. Let me pull it up. I think I found it. Stephen Cry.
That's it, Stephen Cry. Yeah,
Now, what-
there it is.
What's this? What's so special about this one?
I don't know. Something about it just struck home with me. It takes place in an abandoned graveyard. It's like a 80s slasher movie, but in a novel form. And you got the group of kids who just graduated. They're looking for a place to party. They decide to go to the old cemetery because no one ever goes out there. But they get there and they're not so alone. So it just perfect setup for a slasher, and it's written really well. It does the thing. I'm not too big of a fan of it when books do it, but it like bounces around the point of views during the chapter, kind of makes it a little confusing as to who's thinking what. But once you get used to it, doing that, it ends up becoming such an enjoyable book. If you can find that book, I highly suggest you reading it.
Yeah.
You'll
Bring
sound
up
like
The
you're
Forever
pretty,
Children.
old
Jeremy,
school
so you
guy.
can see that.
Wait, what, Zach? I can't hear you. What?
We were talking about The Forever Children too by Eric Flanders. That is like, as far as zebra goes, like the single best one. I tell everyone to read it because it's like better. I mean, it could stand as just an amazing novel, irrespective of zebra.
I
Yeah, I said, I've got it on my shelf in there. I'm going to go and move it closer to the front of my to read pile.
Eric Flanders.
I remember that one has quite a interesting zebra skeleton cover.
No, it wasn't a skeleton. It was one of those, like the.
Oh yeah, that one. Yes,
Yeah,
I
it
do
looks
have
like
that.
it's.
Yeah, I do have that one.
Yeah, cover looks like it's from Village of the Damned or something.
What is the cover I'm thinking of? I was thinking it was called the Something Children, and like
There are
the
a ton of children in the title.
there's the cover is like the skeleton, and it's got like these black things over its eye holes and stuff.
Toy
I'll have to
Cemetery.
look. No, I've got Toy Cemetery. That one's William Johnstone, I believe.
Yeah, that's a good one too. I really love it.
Yeah, I haven't read that one either, but I have it. I read Carnival by him. That was the last one I read by him. I like his stuff. I know he gets a bad rap. And yeah, I can kind of see it because sometimes his books are very similar. But
Yeah, man.
yeah,
But when you read one that if you like don't know that, like if you're just going into it blind and you don't see like the pattern, like Toy Cemetery, you can't freaking like it. Not like that book. It's amazing.
Was this what you were talking about, Chris?
Oh no, that's Ruby Jean. Yeah, I've actually read
I
that
didn't
book.
like
That book's good too.
Oh, I didn't really like that one. I've read most of her books, and I feel that some of her books have a formula and other ones don't.
Well, it says here you liked it. So you gave it 5 stars.
I did.
You gave it 5 stars. Well, Chain
Maybe
Letter.
I'm getting-
Talking about Chain Letter. Talking about Chain Letter, right?
Yeah, maybe I'm getting my Ruby Jean Jensen books mixed up.
Hers are easy to get mixed up. Hers are.
Yeah, so I must have liked it.
Well, anyway, what about you ever read Charnel House by Graham Masterton?
No, but I love Graham Masterton.
Dude, this was insane. Yeah, it definitely made me uneasy, and it's hard to do these days. I mean, I've seen, Angel's Melancholy, the movie, Serbian film, all that stuff, and it's hard. But this one at least made me uneasy, and that's good that it did that, and it's like over 20 years old, But
Wow.
getting back to your own work, Bigfoot Beach, what's the buzz been on that? It's only like a few years old, isn't it?
Yeah, that one actually is. That one has a lot of good feedback. But one of my favorite reviews on that one, actually Jeff Strand sent it to me. As a matter of fact, you were mentioning Jeff Strand. It was on Amazon, and it said no Bigfoot sex, 3 stars. I just thought that was the most hilarious.
I mean,
they
the
were
cover
mad about the no
suggests,
Bigfoot sex, but
yeah, the cover suggests.
so I was like, what? I was like, there kind of is. Yeah, I mean, there kind of is Bigfoot sex in it. Actually, I think a little bit of it, but anyway. But yeah, that one has a lot of fans. Whenever I have that book at like a signing or anything, I always bring a stack of those, and I'll sell out of Bigfoot Beach before I sell out of anything.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, and you've written a few short story collections, not many, right? That's not generally where your bread and butter is, but you've dabbled with short stories, right? With Bone Chimes, and what was the other collection?
Bone Chimes is my collection, but I've done like a lot of anthologies, especially the last few years. I've been trying to do more and more, and I've been in Splatterpunk and Screaming Cacti, a bunch of like anthologies with themes, and so I've been trying to broaden that. Yeah, short stories was something that I always wrote, as a kid growing up for years and years and years, and then as soon as I got published for the first time, just novels and all that, and then it was only after a couple years that I started coming back short. And so yeah, I try to write 1 or 2 short stories now between novels and just kind of let them build up. And I'm supposed to turn in 2 different short stories to 2 other anthologies before the end of the year, so I kind of need to get cracking on those. One of them I actually have written a draft of, but I haven't gone back and polished it up and everything.
Yeah. Oh, did we lose Ann again?
Yeah,
Right.
I think so.
Hopefully she'll be back eventually, because I did have some stuff to go over with her about her own work when she went later on in the show before we wrap up. But anyway, let's see. So yeah, we talked about Bigfoot Beach, Jagger a little bit. I'm not familiar with some of the other stuff that you've done, but I know you've got quite a list here. So, how much of Jackpot did you write? I read that about the guy that he holds people prisoner while they play. They he plays the bingo numbers or
Yeah,
something.
that's how he picks his lottery numbers. Yeah, yeah.
Did you
Man,
just write a
that was
chapter?
so much fun.
Did you just write a chapter in it? Or
Yeah. No, we all took a turn. It's like, it's a novella length, and but we kind of originally, the idea for that was we were going to do like a small and kind of like anthology with just the four of us in it, and it was going to be sold for a fundraiser. And I guess the fundraiser ended up not happening. So Shane McKenzie goes, "Hey, well, why don't we just write something together?" And we were all like, really cool with the idea. I knew Adam and Dave already. Shane, I got to know, because of this book, and he had invited me to submit the Sinister Grin because he was running it at the time. And so we're like, well, what are we going to write? And Shane McKenzie goes, well, I have this idea, for a book about this guy. He's a serial killer who wins the lottery. And he was like, just think of the possibilities. He doesn't just win the lottery; he wins the jackpot, big, big, big millions. And so we all took a turn. We all swore we would never tell which part we wrote, but to give you a hint, the characters I came up with were kind of, they were a family, and they weren't so happy that they didn't win the lottery. So that was my contributions. I brought them into the book, and they kind of become like the villains to the villain, if that makes sense. And man, that was so much fun to write. We were going to do a Jackpot 2 and 3, and we still might one day, but it just didn't happen.
Seems like Shane McKenzie, there for a while, he was writing a new book every few weeks, or at least publishing one every few weeks. And now it's like his release schedule is kind of dried up quite a bit. I guess he got bogged down with work, or did he burn out, or am I just missing his new releases, or what?
He ended up starting to write screenplays. I think he wrote one, and I might be wrong. I can't remember, but I think it was one of the ones that Shudder picked up. And he's been writing. He's like a hired screenwriter now. So I think he's getting back into the books. Though it was like he was so busy at first that he couldn't. That's why we didn't get to do Jackpot 2. He goes, well, guys, y'all go ahead and write it without me. And we were like, nope, we're not doing that. So we're going to wait until he's able to come back and do it, because it wouldn't be the same. I mean, it would not be the same without Shane, because his twisted sense of humor is incredible.
True. What about this one, the Skin Show? I've never heard anything about it.
Oh man, that's one of my favorites. That one that also came from my love of like Zebra and all that stuff. I was in New Orleans, and there was this. I was sitting on a balcony. I was at a writers group, and I was the only guy there. So I didn't know how that happened, but it turned out it was a romance writers group, and so I was the only guy and the only person who didn't write romance. And but I'm hanging out with all these people, and they're some of the greatest friends I still have to this day. But we're all sitting on the balcony, and I just happened to look over, and there's this little cute little woman out there. She's wearing denim cut off. She looks like somebody right out of a Richard Lehman book, and she's holding a sign up above her head that says "Live Acts." $5. And she was trying to get you to come into this building where apparently people were having sex on stage. And I sat there and, it was pouring down rain. And I was just sitting there watching her with the sign. She's walking around. And I kept seeing these people walking around dressed up like these demons. And they had like these suits on that glowed in the dark. And they were really fascinating. And I was like, man, what if I walked into that club right there and it was filled with those freaking demons that have been walking around? And so that was the basis of the idea. And basically what it is, the premise is this guy's brother goes to the skin show, and it's this club that supposedly doesn't, it may or may not exist, and you can only find it if you're invited, and all kinds of wickedness goes on in there. And people who run the club maybe they're not human. So I had so much fun writing that book, and it takes my love of the Phantasm movies, and I put that in there, and I had so much fun writing that. That's probably to this day the most fun I've had. I have fun writing every book, but that one to this day is still the most fun I've ever had.
The Skin Show was.
Right, the Skin Show.
Speaking of Phantasm, were you happy with that last movie?
Actually, yeah, I was.
Me too.
I was disappointed in some things, but man, they wrapped it up the only way possible, and I thought they did such a good job.
I felt the same way too, and the reason is because it actually, if you think about it, it actually explained more than any other Phantasm movie ever has.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it starts talking about,
it
started talking about different universes or something, and then they say, well, we're moving north. Apparently he doesn't like the cold, so they've tried fire, and now they're going to try, ice. I thought, man, look, the journey is just going to keep going forever, and
yeah.
maybe it's a dream, and maybe it's like a shared delusion, or maybe it's both, a little bit of column A and B, but the story goes on even though we're not there to see it. And I guess that's as good a way as they could close out, because Angus Scrimm passed away before it was released, sadly. Don Coscarelli's probably getting older, not to mention the guy who played Reggie. By the way, the guy who played Reggie, is he Hank on Breaking Bad too? Or do they just look insanely alike?
No, they look insanely alike. Yeah.
For the longest time, I thought that was Reggie, as Skyler's brother-in-law or whatever.
Yeah, what's funny is Reggie's name is actually Reggie, and I've met him at Horror Hound shows, and what you see in the movies is exactly the person you meet in real life.
Yeah. Wow. Do you so you don't get to go to a lot of conventions these days with all this shit going on, right?
Oh, no. I was hoping to make a return to Scares the Care this year, but as soon as all this stuff started, I was like, yeah, I don't think it's going to go the way it usually goes. And they did it this weekend, but it was all virtual and everything, but they still raised all the money for all the families that they usually raise the money for. So that's good. There was still, like a lot of virtual panels and all that stuff. So I'm glad that they're able to do it.
It's just not the same. It's a little bit embarrassing when you have to go to let's pretend we're there territory, right? It's just
it stinks.
Might as well not even do it if that's what you have to resort to. But then I don't think that we should be locking down the hatches on account of all this stuff going on. Personally, I think that life should go on as it always has, and everybody should just try to strengthen their immune systems. I think that it's a worse move to shut everything down and put everything on hold, because who's to say if we do this, who's to say we're ever going to get those the previous version of freedom back?
I don't think we will.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm about to send it into bleak territory. I didn't mean to do that.
No, we need more bleakness, Jeremy.
No, we do not.
I thrive on it.
You already
the
supplied more
world's
than
down enough.
Zach already supplies more than enough bleakness. No, I'm joking, Zach. Anyway, so what are you working on right now? I mean, you're staying busy, I assume.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back to the way I was doing things. I'm a single dad now, so that kind of I still write every day, but when I used to write 3,000 or more words, now I write like somewhere around 1,000 words a day. Sometimes not even that much, but I always try to write every day because that's always been the one rule that I always heard was write every day, and that's what I've been doing ever since I was 11 years old when my dad got me this used typewriter. And so I just try to write every day. I've finished a couple of drafts of some books that I'm going to go back to.
Where did this come from?
Oh, yeah, that's Alan Spencer. I did the cover for that.
Oh, you didn't write any of it?
No, I love Alan Spencer.
Mary Poppins, I love it. Now, he wrote Washing Machine Holocaust, didn't he?
Yes, he did. Yeah,
That's
I
a
love
very
Washing
bizarre
Machine
book.
Holocaust.
It's a very bizarre book. It's like they keep dying every night by being thrown into the washing machine, or their body parts are thrown into the washing machine, and I'm not quite clear on why. I didn't understand it, but I liked it. It's weird. Mary Poppins.
Yeah, that one's like, you talk about 80s style stuff. That one right there is as 80s style as they come.
Oh my God.
I enjoyed that one.
It's the best name ever.
Yeah.
What
it's
happened
great.
to him? What happened to Alan Spencer? Why didn't he write anymore?
I think he's getting back to it. I think he just wanted to take a break because he got burnt out. But I'm trying to look on the screen there as you're scrolling through. The title escapes me. What I was going to recommend that you read. That Psychotherapy is really good. I don't see it on there.
Lampreys. That
Man.
sounds scary. That sounds
Yeah, that was good. That he did that for Severed Press. Yeah, that was good. Oh, what is the name of that book? Oh man, I can't think of the name of the book. I feel terrible. I'm hoping I'll see it pop up on your screen there.
The thing about the city that came alive or something. I read that.
Yeah, this one's about where this guy.
This town eats everything. That's the one That's the other one I read.
The book is about this widower who goes to visit his wife's grave, and he realizes that it's been tampered with, and kind of comes to find out someone has been messing in his wife's grave. That's the setup, and where it goes from there is just absolutely amazing.
Space Sharks.
Yeah, that's a good one. That I did the cover for that Storks book he wrote.
I read Storks. I liked it, but we never really understand why they're acid-spitting storks. There's not a lot of why or even how in his books, like Washing Machine Holocaust and Storks and This Town Eats Everything. There's not a lot of how or why. Just there it is, But
another good one is Lone Moor Massacre or something like that. I can't remember if that's the actual title. That's another good one. Okay. I still don't see that book I'm wanting to recommend to you. But yeah, I think he was burned out. I talked to him not too long ago, and he said that he's writing again. So I'm hoping he'll pop back up soon.
What are you gonna sequelize any other books of yours? Besides, obviously you've got what should be a gold mine with Pillowface. Are you gonna sequelize Bigfoot Beach or anything else?
Yeah, actually, I have an idea in my head that I've actually kind of jotted the notes down for a sequel to Bigfoot Beach. I have an idea for a sequel to the Skin Show, which I don't know why I haven't written it yet because I'm tickled to death by that idea. And like I said, I have an idea for another Lurkers book that takes place, quite a few years after the events of the first two books. And it's almost like in the Lurkers book, I see it as the towns kind of, look at everything that happened with the Lurkers as kind of like a fun ghost story, and they decide to exploit it. And about the time they start exploiting it, the Lurkers come back. So, but yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other sequel ideas I have, but I think that's it for right now. Oh yeah, the sequel to Vampire Plainfield, that's going to be the next book I write when I'm done with this one. It's called The Beast of Plainfield.
It's the what?
It's called The Beast of Plainfield is the sequel.
Isn't Plainfield where Ed Gein was?
Yeah. The Vampire Plainfield is basically a story about Ed Gein digging up a grave, and it's a vampire's grave. He accidentally resurrects the vampire. So Ed Gein's the lead character in that book.
We've seen giant spiders in fiction forever, to the point where we don't ever need to see another story about any kind of giant spider. We've gotten the idea. You know what is never explored in fiction, but is probably scarier in my eyes?
What's that?
Giant Jeremy.
Nobody ever writes about giant ticks. Ticks are so much worse than spiders. Am I right?
No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, there's that.
Yes.
That
I
great-
mean, giant ticks already exist in reality. They're called landlords.
But no, I mean, what were you going to say, Chris?
There was that movie from the 90s called Ticks.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I've ever seen.
Well, that's what I'm
about
saying.
Ticks.
We can have endless, stories with giant spiders, but giant ticks, and they're so much worse because they hook themselves into your flesh and they just hang there. Think about the force. Think about the strength that it takes to dig in and burrow in and then just stay there, feeding off your life force. And
There's something scarier about spiders.
And they can give you Lyme disease and all sorts of other crazy stuff. I think ticks are infinitely more scary than spiders.
Centipedes.
Do you remember that one?
I always had an idea to do something about fleas and call it the itch.
That is brilliant. Yeah.
Do you remember?
Oh, go ahead.
Do you remember that one Coyote and Roadrunner cartoon where the coyote tries to catch the Roadrunner with a giant piece of fly paper, and he catches a gigantic mosquito instead?
Yes, I remember that.
I actually, when I saw that as a kid, I literally had nightmares about that part.
There's been giant mosquito movies. They're not. I wouldn't recommend them. I would not recommend them unless they're being riffed on by Crow and Tom Servo. But
oh yeah, I'm a big MST guy. I love them.
Yeah, the best one ever was the Final Sacrifice episode.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
I don't know. What were some of your favorites?
I really liked. Oh shoot, what is the name of that movie? The one with the walnut farmer. Good grief, what is the name of that movie?
Walnut Farmer.
Yeah, Touch of Satan. That one. I love that one.
Mike or Joel?
It's Mike.
Yeah, I like Mike way better than Joel. I don't
You
know.
know what's funny is for
What?
years I liked Joel better, and then up until like the last maybe 3 or 4 years, I think I've grown to like Mike even better. I love the Hobgoblins episode. I love how Pearl punishes them for spilling juice on the couch by making them watch Hobgoblins. I mean, but nothing tops Forrester and Frank as the Mads.
Yeah. Pearl was more memorable. Pearl, Bobo, and Brain Guy.
Yeah, Brain Guy.
Brain Guy
But-
made that last era of MST3K. I mean, he really did.
Yeah, he really did.
Yeah, he was pretty funny. Have you ever seen that one B movie? I think it's called Sinner's Hell or something like that. It was by the same guy who did If Footmen Tire You, What Will Horses Do?
No,
It's the story behind it is basically this guy who was a B movie director, converted to Christianity, and he started making films for ministries instead, but they still had like that B movie vibe. There was still like a ton of graphic violence and shit in them. And he had one.
That sounds awesome.
And he had one that was about hell. And the way Satan was depicted in it, he looked exactly like Brain Guy from Mystery Science Theater 3000.
I loved it when Brain Guy got hockey hair and he was like, "Well, I love it." And
That was the Final Sacrifice episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, the part in the final episode where he can't keep the satellite from crashing back into Earth because Pearl poured Mountain Dew in his brain pan.
Yeah.
I can't remember what episode it is, but
It's like table purple dog liquid.
There was an episode, I can't remember what movie they were watching, but it's when Pearl's like sitting on the steps of her Winnebago, and Mike comes out and she's like, "Hey neighbor, come on over here and sit a spell." And he sits down, they have like that little pleasant talk.
Yeah. And
Which
then he
was
walks
that?
off, and she's like, I don't know when what movie they were watching. Yeah, I don't know either. But yeah, he walks off, and she's like, he's a good guy. He's a good kid or something.
Yeah.
It's a rare moment of bonding, you know. But hey, during World War I, and this is no bullshit, the enemies actually, forgot about the war for one night and exchanged like cigarettes and letters and stuff for one night on Christmas. Like, did you ever hear about that?
Yeah, I've actually heard that story. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a movie about it. I think it's called Joyeux Noel or something like that.
That's weird that Mystery Science Theater would make me recall that, but
It had its moments.
I think I'm just like desperate for like relevance now. I'm just like scratching the bottom of the barrel, which
I think one of the funniest Pearl and Brain Guy moments was when they were traveling through time and ended up in ancient Greek, and Professor Bobo was being worshipped as a god, and they made a giant naked statue of him, and Brain Guy conjures a rope into existence, and he's like, "Well, it's about that time," and Pearl just steals it from him and says, "Brain Guy, no, I'm using this." Then Brain Guy has to convince her not to kill herself by convincing her that in order to stop Professor Bobo from being a god, that if they let things continue as they are, it means chicken and a biscuit will never exist.
Hey, Chris, so you got a few more minutes to give us before we wrap up this interview?
I know. I can do a few more minutes.
Yeah, you said you could give us an hour, and I know it's been a little bit over, but if you can just give us a few more minutes. What kind of movies made you a lifelong horror fan?
Oh man, it was Friday the 13th. What's funny is there was this show that I'm not sure y'all's ages or anything, but I'm like 41, so I was an 80s and a 90s kid, if that makes sense, because I was a little kid in the 80s, but I was a teenager in the 90s, so I kind of got to watch a little bit of everything. But when I was like 5 years old, there was this show that used to come on the USA Network called Commander USA, and he was supposed to be like a burnout superhero from Brooklyn. He wore like this superhero outfit, and he would show B movies, and he's kind of like an Elvira type, a little horror host, but he was like a retired superhero. It sounds bizarre, but it made sense, in in the essence of things. But
It was like a Joe Bob Briggs, only more campy.
like Joe Bob Briggs. He would talk about the movies in between, like breaks from the movie, a lot like what Joe Bob does. And so he was showing Friday the 13th, and my mom, like I grew up, I'm in the South, so my mom, we had this huge garden, and my mom was canning, and I wouldn't leave her alone. I kept wanting to help, but I was too young to help, and she had to get the canning done. So she was like, "Why don't you watch TV?" And she just cuts it on, and the thing that's on is Commander USA. So she sees, this guy in a superhero outfit, and he's kind of being funny, and she's like, "All right, just watch this." Well, it's like she walks into the kitchen, and he goes, "And now for our movie, Friday the 13th." And so I'm 5 years old, no lie, 5 years old. It's my summer break from kindergarten. That's how young I am. And I see this movie, and it is a TV version. I will say that it had commercials in it and stuff. By the time my mom realizes what she's done, I'm like so engrossed in the movie that I'm like begging her not to cut it off. And what made her leave it on was like, okay, well, it's edited for TV, so it can't be that bad. So I became hooked from that moment. So here I am, a 5-year-old kid doing crayon drawings of like my memories of Friday the 13th. So I had like heads being chopped off, and people's throats being slit, deformed kids jumping out of the lake, and I'm drawing them with crayon, and my mom's hanging them up on the fridge. So that started it. So from the moment I was 5 years old all the way till now, it's been horror, and things have like a tree, things have kind of branched in other directions. That horror's led me to this, horror's led me to like this, and I can remember I saw Friday the 13th 1 through 3 by the time I was 6 years old, and then next thing I know, I saw Halloween 2 at a random time, and Return of the Living Dead 2, Chainsaw Massacre 2, Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Critters was a really big one as a kid that, I went crazy. I was in the 3rd grade, and my dad took me to the theater to watch Friday the 13th Part 7.
Now, wait a minute. Is that the one where his mask comes off and he looks almost like reptilian from all the decay? Is that?
Yeah.
That is my favorite Jason moment for some reason. Because the decay is so obvious at that point. I mean, he doesn't look like a Muppet like he did in the 2nd or 3rd one. Now he just looks straight up like a reptilian pumpkin head. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what else they can do with Jason, other than reboot.
They can do anything with Jason.
I hate reboots, but I don't know what else they can do with him at this point. I mean, they can talk about how.
Oh, did you ever read the script?
Jason does his taxes.
Do what? Read
Did you
what?
ever read the script that they leaked for the one that they were doing before the whole lawsuit thing shut it down?
No, what?
Friday the 13th 3D. It was like a prequel / thing that took place in between a couple movies.
Oh.
It was pretty
when did that take place between Part 1 and Part 2? Kind of like a Part 1.5 or something like that.
That, and I know, okay, it did that, but I think it ended right before the 3rd one, if I'm not mistaken. Because it does end. He does get a hockey mask in it, but it's a little bit different.
Yeah, and it was going to be in the snow, right?
No, there wasn't any snow in it. They were originally going to do that at one point, but then they scrapped that idea. This one, it had his freaking, like, it turns out that Bag Jason in Friday the 13th 2 was actually his dad, and then he kills that one.
Now that'd be interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting.
That completes the Freudianism of it.
Yeah. We lost Ann again. Maybe Jason got her. But
Friday the 13th, Jason works from home where because of COVID-19, he has to kill people from home, so he attaches a machete to a drone that he controls from a laptop.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, have you had any interest from studios or screenwriters or anything as far as adaptations of your work? I would think that Pillowface would be in the running to be its own movie, but probably others too. Yeah,
as a matter of fact, actually Pillowface is. You can go on IMDb and they've started the page for it and everything. They've cast Pillowface. He's going to be played by the guy who played Predator in the new Predator movie.
Oh,
And it's supposed to have Macaulay Culkin's brother in it. Gina Gershon's supposed to be in it. The COVID kind of put it all on complete, lockdown, but it was really starting to pick up steam right when COVID hit.
so it's probably going to be in developmental hell for a few years, right?
Probably, most likely, at least 2 years, I'm guessing. And there's a Jackpot movie that's in development. And I've had people reach out to me about A Dark Autumn, which I don't know why that one hasn't been picked up. That one could be a very, that was an idea I had for a screenplay that I was wanting to shoot myself as a movie. And I ended up doing it as a novella for Sam Hain because they were looking for novellas. And I was like, you know what? I could probably adapt my own screenplay into a novella, and I was glad I did that because, man, there was stuff I was able to put in that book that there's no way I'd be able to put in a movie. And that ended up being probably one of the best sellers I think I've had for Sam Hain, period. And I don't know what I would have written if I wouldn't have had that screenplay already written.
Now, when Sam Hain was still a publisher, were they like an Amazon print-on-demand thing, or were they actually in stores? I know it doesn't
No,
matter.
they were in stores. They were distributed by Ingram, who distributes a lot of the big companies. So I used to, whenever I'd go on vacations or anything, I'd see a Barnes & Noble and I'd go in there just to see. And usually at least one or two of my books would be in there.
Yeah.
That was such a wonderful thing, man. And
I had to fold.
Yeah, but now with, I guess, paperbacks kind of making a return, for a while there, it looked like paperbacks were going to go away. But I don't know what it is now, but paperbacks have kind of become so popular again that Walmart's, rebuilding their stores just to incorporate more bookshelves to sell paperbacks.
I noticed they don't have good books on their shelves. That's a problem.
No, they have all the bigger names and stuff, which is fine, but Barnes & Noble actually has a horror section again in their bookstores, which I haven't seen a horror book section in a store other than a used bookstore since I was a teenager.
For a while. They've had them around for a long time, but literally all they have will be Dracula, Frankenstein, and then Stephen King and Dean Koontz, and that's basically it.
Yeah, and Dean Koontz probably doesn't like being in that section.
You mentioned Critters real fast. I've always thought that would be either a killer fanfic, Critters versus Ghoulies, or a legit, crossover movie or something. Who would win in that battle? Critters versus Ghoulies. Who wins?
Oh man, that's a good question because the Ghoulies can kind of just keep coming back. Mm-hmm. So there was. To kind of change the subject a little bit, there was one question.
And then they throw a wrench in the works by introducing the Hobgoblins.
The Hobgoblins, yeah. I even wrote it in Pillowface. One question I used to always bring up, who'd win in a fight, Pumpkinhead or Jason? It's
Jason.
But Pumpkinhead can't be killed until he's done, so it's like that fight would never end, really.
Jason can't be killed. Neither of them can be killed. So endless opportunities for franchises.
Oh wait, no. All Jason would have to do is kill the person who summoned Pumpkinhead.
Jason versus Pumpkinhead 26.
Yeah. Hey, like I said, Chris, I'll try to make this quick. Have you ever read any books by an author that just literally goes by anonymous and they wrote Bourbon Kid, the Bourbon Kid series, and the Red Mohawk and all this? Have you heard of this guy?
No,
This is another character that really speaks to me and is real badass in the way that Pillowface is. And you probably wouldn't get any kind of collaboration out of this guy. He's very shrewd and tight-lipped, and I tried to get an interview from him. He said the whole point of going by anonymous is that you generally don't go on podcasts and
Was he a dick about it, or was he nice?
He wasn't a dick about it, but I mean, I think to decline an interview in general is moving into that territory of just being frumpy and shrewd, you know. But
Yeah.
the point is that, man, in my mind's eye, I can picture Red Mohawk versus Pillowface too.
I mean, if you ask someone for an interview and they come back with "get fucked, needle dick," then yeah, maybe that's a little bit rude, a little unnecessary.
Yeah. I mean,
Have you ever had someone like kind of critique you on the way you handled their interview afterwards? I had
Yes,
that
we
happen to
had
me a
Chet
couple times
Williamson.
when I did my show.
Yeah.
Chet Williamson was disappointed because we had a guest on after him. I guess he wanted the whole show to himself. He complained about the opening segment we did before he even came on. He complained about the questions we asked.
Yeah,
I mean,
complained
to be
about
fair,
everything.
he didn't. I guess. I mean, it's kind of prudish, but we did play a video of a woman throwing her own shit.
Yeah, I mean, what does that have to do with him? That had nothing to do with him. He wasn't even on at that point. But anyway, you get the idea. Yeah, and we also had a clown on once named Laffy Pants, and he was mad that we didn't ask more quote unquote clown questions. But I mean, I asked him about Joker. I asked him about the clown hysteria a few years ago. I asked him about doing charity events for sick kids with McDonald's. I
He
asked him
was just clowning around with you, Jeremy.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, Chris, I know you're running out of time. I'm trying to think if there's anything that we really need to get out there before we wrap up with this. I feel like I'm missing something. Am I?
I'm not really sure. I'm never. I hope I haven't been boring because I'm
No.
so used to being in your position on these things that whenever I'm on this side of the fence, I'm kind of like, I don't know what to say.
Is he doing that on like everyone's end or my end?
Yeah. Something happened to your audio though. Did you take it off speaker or put it on speaker or?
Yeah, you just went old timey radio.
Oh, I did. Oh no.
Yeah. Is there any way you can fix that, but so I can get to my final question?
Hey, start talking in a mid-Atlantic accent.
Just try refreshing and coming back in maybe, and I swear this will be the last question. All right.
Okay. Let me see what I can do.
Okay. Ann, you okay over there?
Yeah, I've just given up on participating because my internet keeps cutting out at random intervals.
Oh man.
What
No,
else cool do we have planned tonight?
we want you to participate. If you ever have any questions to ask, just butt in on us. You know, we want you to be a part of it.
But yeah, it's just I don't want to get halfway through a question and then have,
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Hey,
I guess
go ahead.
real quick. I'm not
How's
going to
that?
name names.
Better. 1 second. What, Ben?
No, never mind.
Okay.
Wait, I want to know now. I'm curious.
We'll wait until
Yeah.
until we're finished with Chris.
All right, type it into the chat, private chat in the meantime, so you don't forget it. Anyway, so Chris, all right, final moment of truth here. Hang on, I forgot how to work buttons. My mind's still.
You forget how to use the internet every time you could start this fucking show.
I know it's all the chemicals, but
I have to direct you like you're a little kid.
yeah.
Like, stop being a boomer and just use the internet. You use it like 20 hours every other day, like everyone
Okay.
else does.
So here we go, Chris. This is the defining moment of truth here. And again, we talked to Wolverine earlier. I talked to Wolverine earlier, and he wasn't totally against this idea. I don't know what sort of loopholes you'd have to jump through, but I think you should talk to this guy about this possibility of this. He's written 2 books about Brain Chew so far. Brain Chew is the type of monster that is affected by a mystical artifact. He's one of those kinds that can only be killed by a mystical artifact that turns him back to stone. He has a problem where he is tied to a certain location, and even when people try to move him away when he's a statue, he still ends up finding a way back there, like mysteriously. He has a side character that is his nemesis, like the final girl or the final guy named Ambrose that would affect the plot, on his end. He likes to bite into people's heads and then turn them upside down and drink their urine as they're pissing themselves post mortem. Though that is Brain Chew.
Holy cow!
We know Pillowface should probably be dead, yet he keeps on living. He's got military strategic knowledge on his side, and two army buddies who have his back in terms of killing through and through. Pillowface has a weakness for some women and children. If they can snap him out of his, killing sprees. Brain Chew cannot be reasoned with whatsoever, and can barely be affected physically unless you run him over with a car. I don't know what effect the old bitch would have on Brain Chew if you hit him in the back of the head, but Pillowface.
Well, Pillowface would have to create some new toys, probably.
Yeah, Pillowface is more susceptible to physical damage, I think, than Brain Chew. But if you're to stab Brain Chew with this mystical dagger, then he just turns back to stone. So I'm asking you point blank, based on what we've just worked out, and even keeping in mind Joel over in the asylum, if he were to come out of it and team up with Ambrose against these guys, and obviously Pillowface and Brain Chew would not be working together permanently. They might just for a moment while they're fighting these other guys. They would end up fighting each other too. Who do you think wins? Who comes out on the winning end of this, based on all I've told you?
Man,
don't be modest. If you think it's Pillowface, say it.
Well,
Brain Chew is dumb.
mean,
Brain Chew is dumb. Pillowface at least has strategic know-how.
And Pillowface also has, backup as well. So I'd probably have to go with Pillowface.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the fact they're so evenly matched leaves the possibility of the first one just being a stalemate and leaving room for Pillowface versus Brain Chew 2.
I think that it may just be a pipe dream, but I don't know, man. I would keep this at least in the back of your mind, and if you ever get in touch with Mr. Wolverine, or if you want me to put you in touch with him, it's something to mull over. I think there's a lot of potential for more Pillowface versus books. And like I said, another one you might consider is Pillowface versus Lou and George from Wolf Hunt, or Pillowface versus Big Head.
That would be fun.
That one, you got to get in touch with Edward Lee and pitch the Pillowface versus Big Head. You said that he's familiar with it. You should totally try to make that happen. I'd buy it.
Yeah, I would love to do that.
I feel like Pillowface, there's a lot of crossover potential ongoing with him. I don't know what you've created here, but yeah, you've created a monster. That's what it is. I don't know, man. It's just
He just became from my love of horror movies. So that's what's funny is he was my love letter to horror movies.
I like characters that have that iconic, like archetypal, view to them, and Pillowface is archetypal in a way,
I appreciate that, man. I really do.
Yeah.
And people ask why I haven't killed him. I'm like, well, for reasons what you just said right there. Plus, I don't want to. I just he's
plus
a
even if
that'll be with me as long as I'm writing.
Yeah. Plus, even if you do kill him, they never stay dead.
No,
it's
never,
like, hey, they're like, hey, we finally killed Jason. It's okay to go fuck by Crystal Lake again.
I have this vision, and I don't know if it's accurate, and I wouldn't want you to tell me even if it was accurate. I just have this vision of whenever Joel and Pillowface finally meet up again, when Joel gets out of the asylum. I don't know whether Joel's going to be like a lesser bad guy to Pillowface, if he's going to be an all-and-out redeemed good guy with a dark past, or if he's going to be like a bad guy that teams up with Pillowface and forgives him. I don't know what you have in store. I just know that Joel is a part of his future, and that for some reason, I could just picture Joel carrying on the legacy of Pillowface by wearing that gunny sack or pillow or whatever over his head after the death of Pillowface. I could see Joel becoming the new Pillowface. And don't even tell me, you don't even have to
Well,
remark.
that was.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
won't. I'll just say you're onto something. But
This is you created an awesome character here, and I'm probably going to start Bigfoot Beach here tonight. Actually, you and Jeff Strand are really doing great things in horror, and I can't wait till you guys start getting the same amount of adaptations that Stephen King did with Mick Garris. I hope you guys find your own Mick Garris, both of you. You know.
oh man, yeah, I appreciate that. I would love to. I would love it.
But I think I'll let you go because you gave us an extra 30 minutes, and I really appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure. And, it's just fun to just geek out about horror movies and, sometimes and books and stuff. And you've helped me do that. So.
Well, I appreciate the invite, and I had a good time, and it was nice to meet everybody.
By the way, based on just us talking here tonight, do you think that we're all right?
Like, all right, mentally?
No, alt-right.
It's just a weird thing where a bunch of writers who are more interested in being gossips than writing are basically accusing us of being Nazis.
But we're not. I promise you. I mean, we're all right, right? You think we're all right, right?
Yeah.
You have to think about it.
From any of our conversation.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There hasn't been any conversations where we, embrace that kind of shit. We're just talk about.
Yeah, the worst person we've had on was alt-right Bradley Sands.
That's a joke. Anyway, the point
If I've done any genocides, I don't remember them.
Right. Anyway,
I do genocides every time I jerk off.
Now you're echoing back, man.
Yeah, but even if you didn't expel the sperm, they wouldn't find an egg anyway unless you had, raw dogging going on. But they can't all impregnate an egg.
Oh, you saying I don't get that pussy?
Hey, you're echoing back.
You're mostly close to insulting you there, and then I realized that I was skating along that edge, and I was like, I'm going to save insulting Ben for when he talks about fucking my mom.
Hang on one second. Because, Ann, you're echoing back, and let's.
Everyone's echoing back. This is what Chris. This is what the show turns into when we don't have guests on.
Anyway, so Chris, I really appreciate you coming on and giving us your time when you didn't have to, and it's been an absolute blast. It's good that people like you and Jeff are keeping the horror genre, vitalized.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'll keep doing it as long as I'll do it regardless, because it's a part of me. But I'm just glad that people like you read it and enjoy it. That's part of the process.